Sometimes the best stories in golf aren't found on tour. You'll find them at the back of the range. And here's your host, Ben Adelberg.
And welcome to the Back of the Range Golf Podcast. I am your host, Ben Adelberg. This is episode 186. Just got back from the Floridian in Palm City, Florida. Special week. So thankful to the University of Houston, Coach Jonathan Dismuke, Morgan Jewell, the head pro at Floridian, man, the entire staff. I'm telling you, it is such a thrill to cover these events and to see the best and brightest in college golf. Congrats to the number one ranked team in the country, the Florida State Seminoles. Coach Trey Jones, they racked up another team win, and Alex Fitzpatrick from Wake Forest wins the individual title. So happy for him. He also received an exemption into the 2022 Valspar Championship. Can't imagine what it must be like for the Fitzpatrick family right now. I'm sure you'll be seeing Matthew join his little brother at that PGA Tour event. Strong performances by Wake Forest, Pepperdine, Arizona State. You know, lots of really strong teams there, and so many guys that I've gotten to know through this podcast. So really a lot of fun for me catching up with them. It's going to be a very interesting couple of months leading up to the national championship. FSU has to be one of the favorites. I spoke with John Pock after he shot 67 in the final round that helped lead his team to victory. You know, here's a guy, he was the low am at the U.S. Open at Winged Foot. He just made his second Walker Cup team, and he basically said that he came back to school because he loves this team and he wants to win a national championship. Doesn't get much better than that, and if they keep playing the way they are, everyone's going to have to run through FSU at Greyhawk to try and win that title. Just a couple housekeeping items before we get to this week's guest. Before the Valspar started at the Floridian, I was able to sit down and record a conversation between Ryan Chrysler, who's lead instructor at the Butch Harmon School at the Floridian. He was on episode 106, so go back and listen to that. But it was Ryan Chrysler, Jonathan Dismuke, the coach at Houston, Trey Jones, the coach at FSU, and Matt Thurman, coach at Arizona State. And it was basically a coaches roundtable where they discussed recruiting, different aspects of the college golf scene. It was a fascinating thing just to be a part of, and that is in the process of being edited. You're definitely going to hear some birds in the background because we got to sit outside on the veranda at the clubhouse at the Floridian to record it. That was amazing. But once that is edited, I will post that. Definitely an episode that you want to keep on your radar. If you're a junior golfer, if you're a parent of a junior golfer, definitely something for you to pay attention to. So look out for that. The other thing I wanted to make sure everyone's aware of is that if you're listening to this episode on the day it is released, which is March 18th, 2021, there will be a big announcement on my Instagram page today. Something very exciting coming this summer. Some of you may know about it, some of you don't. But please make sure you're following along all the time on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. The Instagram handle is the Back of the Range Podcast. Very exciting news coming up. My guest this week is easily one of the most requested guests in the history of the Back of the Range. And truthfully, one of those people that was at the very, very top of my wish list for quite a long time. Kind of in that category of Nathan Smith and Scott Harvey and Stuart Hagestad. You know, people would always start conversations with me like, hey, you know who'd be really great for your podcast? Paul Simson. I'd be like, yeah, I know, I'm going to get him. I just need an in. Well, I had the opportunity to meet the man himself at the East-West matches last year at Merido. Incredible guy, great storyteller. He immediately said yes, he would do the podcast. It got recorded, and my guest on this long-awaited episode is Paul Simson. Paul is an absolute legend. The numbers are staggering. He is the only man to hold the British, Canadian, and U.S. Senior Amateur title at the same time, the Simpson Slam. Most of you listening to this episode were not alive when he made his first USGA appearance in the 1960s. His streak of consecutive years where he has appeared in a USGA championship is probably older than many of you listening as well. He holds the all-time record for most titles won in the Carolina Golf Association. It's in the 20s, and he's looking to add. Now, I'm not going to overload the intro with any more stats. You're going to laugh a ton in this episode. You're going to learn a lot about what makes Paul so successful. year after year. And as I said, he's not done. So let's get started. It's a long episode, well worth the wait. Paul, you're at the back of the range. How are you?
I'm doing just great today, Ben, and kind of you to have me on your podcast.
Well, this has been a long time coming. I think you and Nathan Smith and you're right in that category of you. Well, you got to get this guy on. You got to get Simson on the podcast, and this has been a long time coming. And thrilled that you're able to join me, and glad we're getting 2021 started finally, getting the hell away from 2020. We have a truckload of things to unpack when it comes to you and your amateur career, but tell me how you've been kind of navigating 2021 so far.
Well, it looks like we will be back to playing a lot of competitive golf, unless, the COVID-19 pandemic takes a different turn. I don't know how the mid-ams will be as far as vaccinations. I fortunately have had my first shot, or as they say over in Britain, jab, and I'm expected to get my second shot on Sunday. So I will be basically within a week or two fully immunized, and I won't have that problem to worry about. Certainly has been difficult, but one of the great things is that golf has been one of the few endeavors that really you can do, and you can do with other people, and it's been shown to be safe, and as long as you social distance and keep masks on, everything should be fine. So as far as starting out, I'm going to play in a couple of weeks down at the Gasparilla, which is the first time I've played down there, and really the first event of the amateur season. And I'm also entered in the Jones Cup Senior, and I'm looking forward to that. And as invitations open up, I'm going to try and play a pretty full schedule this year, because last year, let's face it, none of us got the dust off the clubs as well as we would have loved to.
Right, of course. Yeah, I was thinking back just as you're talking about this, and a lot of things fell through in 2020, but if I'm not mistaken, you had a streak broken in 2020. Boy, I'm really going for the sensitive topics right now. I'm really starting off. I don't know why I'm doing this, but let's just plot ahead. You, 2020, if I think my notes are correct, would have been your 36th consecutive year playing in a USGA championship. Is that correct?
That is correct. And we're just going to say that since they didn't play so many of the competitions, I'm just going to kind of whack that from the calendar.
We're going to continue it, aren't we? I'm fully.
I mean, they're giving everybody additional exemptions because, so I'm going to consider it still consecutive.
I think that's perfect. The reason I actually wanted to talk about that, or just to throw it out there, because for the listener that may not know the name Paul Simson, we're going to digest that just to start, and we're going to unpack some other ridiculous stats with your amateur career. But that's a good way to start, to understand that there's people listening right now that aren't even 36 years old, haven't been on the planet that long. You've done that with USGA championships. So that's a good place to start. But let's actually go back to where you grew up. You grew up in Jersey, and your junior golf career. Tell me about one of the highlights of your junior golf career. And then I definitely need to talk about where you played college golf.
Well, my first USGA event will be, 54 years ago this year. I qualified for the US Junior at age 16. US Junior that year was held at Twin Cities Golf Club or Twin Hills Golf Club in Oklahoma City, and John Crooks ended up beating Andy North in the finals. I believe I made it to the quarterfinals in that event, and but I beat a couple of, I beat Forrest Fessler.
Yeah,
recall that name, and I can't remember who else I beat in that event, but it was pretty special time, to play in your first USGA event and qualify and win 3 matches. So that was kind of a start. Back then, I mean, you had the state junior, maybe a golf association junior, like in the New York area, we had the Metropolitan Golf Association. And other than that, you had the U.S. Junior, and there was no AJGA or anything like that to compete in. So you had to look far and wide to find things to compete in. I was fortunate enough I could qualify for the New Jersey Amateur and a couple other events in my home state. But then, I graduated high school and made my way out to New Mexico.
Okay, so before we travel completely across the country to New Mexico, I have to ask. I mean, you're playing all these right now. You live in Raleigh, North Carolina. You've played in tons of Carolina Golf Association events. I'm sure with all the amateurs, the state amateurs you've played in, you've won state amateurs, and you've seen the young kids come up. I mean, for over the years, what was your junior golf experience like as far as just getting into the game? I understand the lack of tournament exposure that you had, but what about? I mean, how did you actually get into the game, and did you have practice facilities, and how did you actually get to the point where you can compete?
To give you an idea, our family played golf. I've just been going through some of the archives. My great-grandfather was a club champion at Canoebrook. 54 years ago. He won the club championship in 1917, and he won the club championship at Madison Golf Club, which was just down the street from his house, in 1909 and 1910.
Oh my gosh.
So that's pretty cool. I didn't really know that he was that good a golfer until my mom passed away 8 years ago, and I discovered some of the medals in her in her box of mementos.
Sure.
And then when I went back and looked, I used to live in Chatham, which was right next to Summit, where Canoebrook is, and next to Madison, where Madison Golf Club is. And so when I went back to visit, I went by those golf clubs, and sure enough, there was my great grandfather's name up on plaques at those clubs.
How cool is that?
But basically in the early '60s, my folks joined Fairmont Country Club as brand new members at a brand new golf club, and I took to it like, I just absolutely loved every second. I wanted to spend every morning, every afternoon, and basically into the night playing golf, practicing, and just getting better. And so we had a pro whose name was Ron Reiner, who was very interested in junior golf, and he took a lot of time to nurture both me and some of the other juniors that we had around the club. And I just loved it, and he encouraged us to compete in whatever we could find to compete in. I mean, I was playing in state opens when I was 15. I could qualify, and and I was making cuts and things like that, and but again, there just wasn't that much for a junior golfer, or really even a mid-am golfer. There wasn't that much to play in.
Yeah.
And so when I went out to New Mexico, I had some club championships that I'd won, and I'd won certainly some junior club championships, and I'd finished highly in, the state am and stuff like that, but no major victories, just because there wasn't a whole lot to play in.
You're going out to New Mexico. Two other questions I have to ask you before we get out to New Mexico. I'm dying to figure out, I'm dying to understand New Mexico, first of all, because I'm thinking, okay, you qualify for U.S. Junior, you're up in the Northeast, there's all these schools around there, but you walk on to New Mexico, so there's got to be a story there. We'll get to that in 1 second, but the first thing I want to know is, as kids, junior golfers, or, you're talking about qualifying for state opens and qualifying for U.S. Juniors. Qualifiers are very difficult. I've spoken to collegiate players that are, AJGA All-Americans, or they are, All-Americans, and collegiate All-Americans, but they struggle with a USAM qualifier. Then I talk to some people, and they just blitz right through them. And there's just almost like no rhyme or reason. It's not a skill level. Everyone can hit the ball. Everyone can make the putts. But it comes down to qualifiers. Can you even put your finger on how you were able to be successful in qualifiers at such a young age?
Oh, I don't know. I seem to be able to step up when when you need an extra gear. I seem to be able to come up with it.
Okay.
I love the competition. I mean, I just love it.
Okay.
And I seem to be able to isolate the individual shots as opposed to, the end goal of, qualifying or, whatever you're trying to do. In golf, if you look too far ahead, like basically beyond the next shot, you're going to fail a lot.
Okay.
And I seem to be able to focus on the task at hand.
How did New Mexico come into the picture when I'm guessing you had to have had a name for yourself as a high school, junior player, high school? You had to have some sort of a name for yourself with all those accomplishments. So,
well, I did, but the golf was not. Golf was not the draw that it is now.
Right.
Tiger changed that for all of us. Golf, when I was playing high school golf, was not very cool. You played baseball. You could do track, but golf was in many circles considered a way to get around doing something worthwhile.
Okay.
Now I never felt that that it was that way, but I used to receive a lot of kidding because I played golf. That it was not. Well, I guess we can say wussy. It was a wussy sport.
Yes, not the most masculine endeavor is what you're saying.
And nobody thought it was that cool. Well, I thought it was cool, and I really didn't care what anybody else thought. I just thought it was fantastic. I was watching tournament golf on TV. We had the U.S. Open come a couple times to Baldwin, which was only 5 miles from the house. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. We had the Thunderbird tournament. I believe it was called that was held at Upper Montclair, and I used to try and get over there as much as I could. So I was enamored with the game from the first time I picked up a club. I just thought it was fantastic, and I still think it's fantastic. So at any rate, going out to New Mexico, that was a combination of the fact that back then Houston was the big power, Wake Forest was a big power, and New Mexico was a good golf team. They were not a great golf team, but they were always certainly within the top 25 or 30 teams in the country. I went with my dad and we visited Houston. We visited Wake Forest. We visited New Mexico, Arizona State, San Diego State, and believe it or not, the University of Washington.
Okay, that's a
basically a week trip, and I talked to different golf coaches, and back then scholarship money was not as available as it is now. Only the very, very cream of the crop players seem to get scholarship money. I always thought I could play, but I didn't have a resume. And when I got to New Mexico, there were 4 brand new full scholarship freshmen that were trying to make the team just like I was.
Wow. So you get out there and you got to walk on and earn your spot. And obviously you earn your spot and you earn All-American honors in your senior year. Before we started recording, I'm it's so great that you're actually still involved with your team after all these years. You guys have a reunion planned this year?
We do. Probably be. I think this is our 4th reunion.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, I just got the email today, and we still have a bunch of guys that either graduated from like 68, 69, all the way through like 76 or 77. And we will have probably 30 or 40 guys show up for our reunion.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So they're probably 70 or 80 guys on this email train. and we have 5 or 6 that are missing in action.
Okay. Well, we got to track those guys down. So this reunion, I'm guessing. I mean, please tell me there's golf involved, and maybe a glass of wine or two, and just really stories from the glory days.
Oh yeah, there'll be 2 rounds of golf are planned, and a dinner at a hotel, and we have a group rate set up at the hotel, and spouses are invited or significant others if they want to come. Generally, I usually go because it's usually a bunch of guys sitting around telling old stories, and
there you go.
and that loses the ladies in a hurry. But we have a good time.
So you played at New Mexico, and you turned professional. Played the mini tours for a little bit. I know you played professionally, and then got your amateur status back during the late '70s. But I'm always fascinated by mini tours, whether it's the guys that are playing them now, which are run, there's some that run all over the country. Some run great, some run, not so great. Then we got the Hooters Tour. I still think that somebody needs to start a podcast talking only about the Hooters Tour, because I think there could be that could fill up episodes for years. What were the mini tours like back then? Is this out in the West Coast, or is this in the East? Where was this?
Let's see. I for about one season played a very small event in the Dallas, Texas area, and played a series of maybe 10 or 12 events, and then went with Bruce Litsky as my roommate. To play a series of mini tours in Savannah, Georgia. And we had a lot of good players there. Bill Rogers was there. Dave Knipe was there. Fuzzy Zeller was there. I'm sure I'm missing 2 or 3 others that were there that were good players, but I just don't remember the names offhand right now. And we had just a fantastic series there. It was held at Savannah Inn and Country Club, and Litsky and I were roommates, and he became the leading money winner on that tour. And after the practice rounds, I was so discouraged, I almost decided I should probably come back home, because he beat me so badly in the practice rounds that I didn't think I had much of a chance. I ended up being like the 4th or 5th money winner. And I just we had an absolute ball. I made some money. That fall, both of us went to try and qualify for the tour. And of all things, he didn't make it through the first qualifying tournament, which just absolutely astounded all of us, because he was such a good player.
Right.
And I failed in the finals. But hey, that's the road not taken for me. The next year, Bruce went on to, qualify fairly easily. And I think it was only a year, maybe not even a year or 2, until he won his first event, which I believe was down at Tucson National. And I can remember watching him. I believe it was in a playoff, making about a 60-foot putt to win the event.
You are 100% correct. It was the Joe Garagiola Tucson Open, won in a playoff over Gene Littler in 1977. Damn.
Yep, that was him. Yep.
Damn.
So the memory's still there.
Oh yeah, it is. Well,
and
it's a shame. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And we remained friends all along until his very untimely and unfortunate battle with brain cancer that ended probably 2-3 years ago.
Yeah. No, I was just about to say, really sad, and one of the more unique PGA Tour players probably in history, because you think
yes. I mean, yeah, and what a great guy.
Oh.
He had life in perspective.
Oh my gosh.
He liked golf because it provided him a living, but he had so many other interests. He had his car collection that he just loved, muscle cars from the 60s and 70s. And he was a great guy, no doubt about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I always just remember him just like didn't want to practice, didn't want to play a lot of tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
He'd play in as many as they needed to make however much money he needed to get by and survive and be happy. And that was it.
That's right.
So.
But from those times, I played with so many, good golfers. Ben Crenshaw was dating Nancy Hager from Dallas at the time that I went to New Mexico. And my folks had moved to Dallas at that point. He called me up one day and said, Paul, he said, Nancy's a really good lady golfer, but I need somebody to play with that can play. Okay. And so I used to spend, maybe 1 or 2 summers when we weren't playing in, tournaments like the Southern Am or the Western Am or the Southeastern Am. Ben would call me up and we'd play. And that was always a lot of fun. And so I knew Crenshaw well, and, still, we see each other occasionally. He doesn't compete anymore, but when I used to play in senior opens and things like that,
sure,
he would, always say hello, and the same with Litsky, and same with, all kinds of folks like, Bob Gilder and, Tom Pertzer and Stadler. I mean, all those guys were contemporaries of mine that, basically were the stalwarts on the PGA Tour for years, and then basically made up the original big contingent of the senior tour.
Right, of course. And just by listening to you talk about just how much fun it was to play golf with them and compete with them on the mini tour, but I'm guessing correct me if I'm wrong though, but it sounds like you're pretty content and happy with the path that you chose. Because a lot of these kids that you probably run into are thinking, oh, I want to be on the PGA Tour, and then I'm going to get I'm going to fly around on a jet, and I'm going to have this and that and all this stuff. And I'm guessing that you've probably seen it all. It's not that easy, and the money obviously wasn't there back then.
Well, no, the money wasn't there as much as it is now. You can always lament about the road not taken, but I've had a heck of a lot of fun.
Oh yeah,
playing amateur golf and winning as many events as I've won, and being able to participate at golf at the highest levels as far as amateur golf is concerned, and also being able to be on the fringe, of playing in, I've been in a U.S. Open.
Yep.
I've played in 2 or 3. Tour events years ago when they had the 4 spotters. I think they still have them actually. So, it's something that I don't really look back at and lament at all. Everybody has their own path, and everybody has to choose the best way for them. And I'm very pleased with my choices.
Well, let's get a couple stats out of the way so people are aware of them. Most Carolina Golf Association titles of all time. I think we're at about 38 about now. And
we're up to 39.
Oh, excuse me. 39. Carolina Golf Hall of Famer. You are a North Carolina Sports Hall of Famer, and one of my back-to-back North-South amateurs in 95 and 96 at Pinehurst. One of my favorite stats that I'm not shy about passing along to anyone that, especially we'll talk about the East-West matches at Merido, but I definitely will relay this one. Your number of USGA appearances is just about the exact same number as your age. So I think you're at 69 USGA championships right now, or was last year going to be 69?
I think last year was going to be 69.
Okay.
And it might, I thought I was more like 67 or 68.
Okay.
But I really haven't gone through and looked at it all that carefully. I listen to what the USGA tells me it is. And
there you
I
go.
just say, okay,
they're
right for the most part, sure, even though they're not always right.
Well, that's one of my favorite stats that I've heard. What would you say? People listen to that stat and they just, what is maybe the biggest misconception about playing high level amateur golf, whether it's thinking that, oh, well, you just practice all day and you just play golf and you don't work. And, oh, you just, you show up whenever you want to. What would you say is the biggest misconception about playing this at this high of a level?
Well, everybody has to, hit their comfort zone as far as balancing family and work and, obviously a third career playing amateur golf. I will be the first to admit that sometimes it is not very easy to do that. Just like, professionals in being able to balance, family life and playing the tour is extremely difficult. I do work at a job that allows me to pretty much pick my hours. Likewise, if I'm not working, there is the potential that I am not selling, and it's not a cheap sport.
Right.
Flying all over the country and staying in hotels and renting cars and having caddies and stuff like that can be pretty expensive, and you have to make sure that you make enough to be able to fund those hobbies, and I've been fortunate in that I've been able to do that. But it is not easy, and I think that there are a lot of probably pretty good players who would be better if they didn't have the financial or the time restrictions that family and work put on you.
Yeah. I was just going to say you just put it in a great way. I don't think I've ever heard of it that way. I mean, it goes without saying, but your third occupation, family, career, and amateur golf. It's a job. You have to make time for it, and it takes a lot of effort and a lot of time.
Mm-hmm. It does.
So one of the things I wanted to definitely hit upon is your time. You have a lot of great years that probably stick out to you. I know 91 was a real special year, winning the Carolinas Amateur, but I have to ask you about 2010. You are the only man in history to have the British senior, the Canadian senior, and the U.S. senior title hold all three at the same time. And I believe it was the Canadian and then the British and then the U.S. Is that the order that it went in?
It actually was the British, then the Canadian,
okay,
and then the U.S. And a little bit different than it normally is because that year the U.S. Amateur was held at Lake Nona, and we played the end of September into the beginning of October, whereas normally the U.S. Senior is usually the last week in August, first week in September. So it was, a month, a month earlier than it normally is, or almost 2 months earlier in some instances. And it was a span of actually 55 days. Anybody who is a golfer knows that you sometimes get into a good pattern. And I got into a good pattern at a really, really fortunate time. Sure. And played probably some of the best golf that I played in my entire life. Those 55 days. The British Senior, I think I won. That was the year I won at Walton Heath, and I think I won by 3 or 4 shots over Chip Lutz. I went up to the Canadian Senior, and it was like I had lightning in a bottle. I think I won the event by 18 or 19 shots.
Oh gosh!
I mean, it was I had like a 12 or 13 shot lead going into the last round, and it was just one of those. It was one of those weeks where I think that I only hit 1 or 2, poor shots. And probably the poor shots weren't even, the last day I got to where I was, trying to hit 3 woods over water 260 yards away and, doing some stupid stuff. But I had the tournament easily won. And then I got down to Lake Nona, and I was, I still had lightning in a bottle, was playing really well. I was paired in the qualifying with Talent.
Pat Talent.
Patrick Talent and I were playing in the qualifier together, and we got to the last hole, and I had been medalist, I think, 2 of the last 3 years, and a medalist had not won the tournament in like 25 years. And I said, well, I'm gonna try hard on this hole, but I hope I was thinking to myself, I hope Pat birdies the hole, and sure enough, he did. So he was the medalist that year.
Perfect.
And I was the second qualifier, and as it turned out, we met in the finals. And again, that was a week that I played very, very solid the whole way. I never had a match go to extra holes. I won 2 or 3 matches by a wide margin, which is always easy on you to, get out there and really not have any problems at all advancing. So, I was able to conserve energy and then save the best for the finals. I made everything and, hit the ball well, and I had a 4-up lead at the turn and held on to win 2 and 1. And I can tell you, I've won a lot of times, but winning your first USGA event still is bringing tears to my eyes here thinking about it.
Well, then you back it up and you win another one. But I have to ask you, what is so what would you say for someone that maybe just, comes out to your club in Raleigh and randomly gets paired with Paul Simson to play an afternoon game that doesn't know anything about you? What is something that they're going to take away? Like, what would you say is the strength of your game that someone just coming in, doesn't know your resume, doesn't know anything, they're going to say, man, I played with this guy, Paul, and you're never going to believe what this guy did. What is going to jump out to people?
Well, usually it's my short game.
Okay.
Normally I'm a good putter. Normally I'm pretty good with the wedges. But quite honestly, every tournament I evaluate I evaluate what hurt me and what helped me. And whatever hurt me, I try to work on. Whatever helped me, I try to make better. And, it's just a self-evaluation that I think every golfer does. I mean, some people keep real good track of their stats and how far away they were and, how many greens they hit and fairways they hit, stuff like that. And while I do some of that, for the most part, I look at critical times when I could have saved a shot or, maybe didn't save a shot, and, work on improving those things that I think need fixing. Usually it's not a swing change. Usually it's, you get to the ripe old age I'm at, I do the same things over and over again. And, it drives me crazy that, you can be in this game so long and you still swing fast when you got to hit it hard.
Right.
And you don't need to. I mean, everybody knows that if you swing smooth, you usually generate more club head speed because your timing is better. But I'm just like everybody else. If I need a few extra yards, I swing harder.
Well, I remember seeing you at Merido, and I'm like, because you were playing the practice round day. You were playing a game with I can't remember who you were playing with, but you were definitely playing that day. And I said, well, let me walk down and see this guy's action. I was like, yep, there, I see it now. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, just stripe this 3-wood on 10. I was like, okay, I get
it. Albert Huddleston and I were playing Kevin Marsh and one of his players.
That's right.
And Kevin, if you're listening, I appreciate the money. I appreciate the money, Kevin.
That is coming from a guy that is very confident in his amateur status and is not worried about anything. That's fantastic. All right, so we're gonna get to Merido. We're gonna get to Albert Huddleston in a minute, but you mentioned your wedge game, you mentioned your short game, and I definitely want to take advantage of your expertise and of your tremendous accomplishments. How do you practice your short game and your wedge game? Because as you well know, every damn driving range in the country, everyone pulls out their driver and just tries to hit it as far as they can. And the, chipping green in the practice area, or the practice putting green and the chipping green is, collecting dust, so to speak. You mentioned, self-evaluating and learning from your poor performances. That's great. But how do you approach a good short game practice session?
Well, obviously, the one of the important features is to have a place where you can actually go and practice short games, and not every club is blessed to have a chipping green, or a place where you can hit bunker shots, or a place where you can uh, you know imitate different shots that might occur on the course, like hitting out a rough, to chip to a green. And fortunately, at the clubs that I'm members at, they all have excellent short game areas, and it's it's just regular maintenance, like you perform on your car. If you don't practice your short game, it's going to go south on you, and when you need it, it's not going to be there for you. So it's just like anything else. You are correct. People get out there to the driving range, and once they get warmed up, they'll take that driver out and beat that driver to death.
Right.
And yet, let's face it, driving is a component that you have to have, but you also have to have accurate irons. You have to have accurate long irons, medium irons, short irons. Everything has to be accurate. But when it comes down to it, the short game, 50 yards and in, you can mitigate a lot of mistakes by other clubs by having a very good short game. And we all know the old saying that you go to the well too many times, you're not going to find water.
Yeah.
And you miss 5 or 6 greens in a row, and you remain even par. That's because you have a good short game. And eventually you're not going to get one up and down, or you're going to put it in a spot where you can't get it up and down. But if you have an off day hitting, if your short game hangs around there, you can still keep yourself in the golf tournament. And so I do. Many times I'll go out with the intent of hitting balls, to work on a swing, a weight shift, or using my legs, or getting the club back far enough, and I'll end up going over to a chipping area and say, you know what, I'm really happy chipping these balls today, and
right.
I can chip a lot more balls than I can hit balls. If I hit 80, 90, 100 golf shots on the range, I'm exhausted. But it doesn't take anything for me to hit 200 chip shots to various pins in a short game area. And so in a way you conserve energy, and you do the maintenance that's required to keep your game in top form.
And it also keeps it fun. Like you said, it's more it's more rewarding to, at least in my opinion, it's more rewarding and keeps you interested to be chipping and putting, because you can actually see the ball go in the hole. Banging 6 irons, at some point, unless you knock a flag down or something, it's the balls, even if you're hitting them great, they're all kind of landing in the same area. It gets repetitive and monotonous.
Well, true, but if you have a range that has target greens,
that's
or
true.
someplace, you can say, okay, let's see if I can hit this target green with 8 of these 6 irons out of the next 10 shots. And you set goals.
Sure.
And if you exceed those goals, you're pretty pleased. If you don't, if you're hitting 4 of those greens, then you're pretty unhappy about it.
Yeah.
So there, you have to make it interesting. When you're hitting your driver, you need to have a target area that if you're a little right or a little left, you're still going to be in the fairway. But if you're a lot left and a lot right, you're not going to be in the fairway, and that's when you start looking for big numbers.
Before we talk about Merido and the East-West matches, I know you're the captain of the East team. Would have had Tim Jackson as your co-captain, but unfortunately he wasn't able to attend. But you were the captain of that team, and can't wait to talk about Merido. But I definitely wanted to ask you about your son Philip. I know he's caddied for you in USGA events and other events. And when did he first start caddying for you, and how has that relationship, obviously, father-son relationship, but how has tournament golf kind of accentuated the relationship with your son?
Oh, well, if Philip, the golf course may be the only place that he is not talking.
I don't know your son, but
he's a very affable and very friendly young man. He's not young man anymore. He's going to be 40 this year. But he started caddying for me about age, I think it was age 12. He came up and caddied for me in the Northeast Amateur, which is a magnificent event.
Right.
Held on one of the classic Donald Ross golf courses, Wannamoisett Golf Club, and held by a membership that is just so wonderful to all the players, and it's just a great event to play in, and one of those that if you're out there listening and want to set a goal, get yourself into the Northeast Dam, because that's a great place. And he went up there and caddied for me. It was short. It's par 69, and it's on a very compact piece of land. So I figured it would be easy for him to be able to get around, unlike some of these 7,000 yard golf courses where you have a long distance between tee and green. I might be carrying the bag the last 5 or 6 holes because he'd worn out on me. But
you don't want to bring him to Pebble or Bandon his first time out. Let's keep it Wannamoisett. I can see him from 7 holes away.
And he did a great job up there. He has always been an enthusiast of the game. He never really got the competitive and tournament bug like I have. Although we do very well in father-son events, and we play a lot in father-son events. And he enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it, and it's time we can spend together in addition to playing together and doing other things together, because we not only play golf together, we ski a lot together. And we spend a lot of time with each other, and it's a great thing. One thing about golf and skiing, I see people abuse their cell phones on the golf course, but I don't see many people abusing their cell on a ski lift. And so we do spend a lot of time with each other, and we enjoy each other's company. And, it grew from him caddying in, the Northeast to start with. He started caddying for me in the North-South Amateur. And a cute little story. The first time I won the North-South, I played Robert Floyd in the semifinals, and I beat him in 20 holes. And my in-laws were members at Pinehurst, so we were using the members' locker room, and it was the second match, and it was a big deal to beat him. Raymond was out there, and Raymond Jr. was out there caddying for Robert, and Marlene Floyd was out there. I had a rather large contingent that wasn't on my side.
Uh-huh.
And we got finished, and Philip got into the locker room, and he was a lot more nervous than I was, because he said, "Dad, I'm still shaking, and you don't even look like you're shaking." And I said, "Well, I was nervous out there. I'm not going to tell you I wasn't."
Sure.
And I went off and showered and got all cleaned up and everything, and he still had his head in his hands. And I said, "Philip, are you ready to go yet?" He said, "Well, Dad, don't you have to take a shower?" And I said, "I've done the shower and I've done the whole bit, and you've just been sitting there with your head in your hands." He said, "Oh man," he says, "I don't know if I could ever do this." And then I always used to get a kick at him because he wanted to read the paper about the match. And I said, "Philip, you were there. You don't need to read the paper about the match. Plus, that's yesterday. That is yesterday. We need to make more headlines today." And I said, "After the tournament's over, you can read everything you want to, but that's what's already happened. We've got to go make it happen again today." And that's one of the things I try to stay away from, the papers and all the other stuff that goes on, because you can get so hung up with what's happened the first 2 or 3 rounds, and you forget that you've got more tournament of golf ahead of you. And he would always want to read the paper. I said, "Just get the paper if you want to, but don't read it. Read it when the tournament's over for us." And then he'd get because there's nothing there's not going to be a retraction the next day.
Right. Yeah. And it doesn't matter what it says, especially when you got more matches to play in.
And so he has been there through thick and thin. He's been there through many, many wonderful victories, and he's been there through some pretty big disappointments too. Golf has a way of evening out your up and down times, and he's a great cheerleader. He's a great caddy. He's a great friend, and we spend a lot of special times together doing stuff like that. Playing in the senior opens, probably some of the most fun. I mean, certainly
Sure.
It's fun to win U.S. amateurs, stuff like that. But when you're out there and you've got, huge crowds on each side of the fairway, and you've made the cut, you're going to be low am, or you're going to be close to being low am, and just to make the cut in a senior open is a thrill. But then to play Saturday and Sunday and play with some of the great senior pros, many of them who we know, and many of whom who we didn't know but became friends with, and he enjoyed that, and I enjoyed that for him, and I've enjoyed it myself, and so he always qualifies, or he always caddies for me in all the senior opens and all the senior AMs, and basically all the USJ events that I've played in the last 10 years or so.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm really glad you shared that story. So that's perfect. I was going to give you an opportunity to maybe throw him under the bus, but I love the story of just his head in his hands for like 20 minutes. I mean, that says it all right there, where, originally I was going to say, how do you set the expectations, or how does your son, set his expectation for his golf game? But it sounds to me that he's just very invested in yours. He's like, nope, I'm going to carry the bag. That's my lane. I'm going to let Dad stay in this lane.
Well, and he does a great job. He's a really good caddy. He knows my game. He knows how to read the greens very, very well. And so I trust him with a lot of the decisions. And we analyze each shot, and ultimately I'm the player and I make the decision as to what's going to happen. But a lot of times I will take his advice, because it's rooted in experience and sound judgment on his part. Whereas sometimes in the heat of competition, sometimes I think a little bit differently, and
sure.
It's good to have another opinion.
As I stated earlier, you were asked to be a captain for the East squad at the East-West matches at Merido, and really just an incredible event where it was really 20 years in the making. They tried to launch the first one, but unfortunately it was right around the time of 9/11, so it just did not get started. But the inaugural matches were last year at Merido, and really you had, we came up with the number of, over 600 combined USGA championships were in that room, and that's just between like 40 guys. So just every big amateur, senior amateur, mid-am, had a couple of college kids there. It was just an incredible event. And, hosted at Merido, that's Albert Huddleston's joint. And tell me about the first, I know that you're good friends with him. Tell me about the first time you meet Albert Huddleston.
Well, I told this story down at the East-West matches. It was Albert and my anniversary down there. Do you remember me? Were you in the room when I told that story?
No, I actually
maybe
wasn't.
not.
I don't think I was.
Okay. Well, 23 years ago, the first week in November, Albert and I met each other for the first time at the Honors Club in Ooltewah, Tennessee, which is, the Honors Club is my favorite club to play at. I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful golf course. And I had played in the Mid-Am 3 or 4 weeks earlier, was held at Dallas Athletic Club, DAC as they call it. And the third round matches were being held in a kind of a mist. And my wife decided that her needlepoint needed more attention than being out on the golf course watching me. And I quite honestly can't blame her for that. She went, and so she was in there in the clubhouse doing needlepoint, and there were 4 or 5 guys sitting around, and Albert was one of them. And he was saying, well, listen, guys, he said, I'm going to try and go out and meet this Paul Simson guy. because he's going to be playing with us in a few weeks. And what he didn't know was that Tom McKnight, who had been the U.S. amateur runner-up that year and had invited me to come, that I had turned down the invitation to go to the Honors Club.
Whoops.
And he kept talking about how he wanted to, meet me and everything. And my wife, Chris, finally went around. He says, "Excuse me, you keep saying the name Paul Simson." And she said, "Oh, yes, I'm Albert Huddleston. He's going to be playing golf with me in, 2-3 weeks at the Honors Club in Tennessee." And she says, I don't remember that being on the calendar. And well, I unfortunately lost my third round match, and we were headed back on the plane from Dallas back to Raleigh. And I'll never forget. We got about halfway home, and she says, "I understand you're going to the Honors Club in a couple of weeks." And my head spun around like The Exorcist. And I said, "What?" I said, "I turned that invitation down. How did you even ever find out that I had been invited?" Because a lot of times I'll get invitations, and I know when I'm getting close to using up all of the all of the away from home time, and I was getting very close to getting to that point where the fuse blows up, or all of a sudden the locks are going to be changed. And I said, well, I've turned that invitation down. I was supposed to go over with Tom McKnight and a fellow named Bubba Judy. And then the most amazing thing happened. I was thinking maybe there was not enough oxygen at 35,000 feet, but she said, I really think you ought to go. And I go, "What?" Because it was going to be another 4 or 5 days away from home. And, and it was one of those things. It was a guy's trip, and she was not invited, even though she enjoys the Honors just almost as much as I do. And sure enough, I went, and Albert and I met, and we hit it off immediately. Albert's just one of the really, really great individuals that I have been so pleased to be introduced to in my lifetime. And we hit it off, and then next year I qualified for the U.S. Open, and I invited him to go out to the Olympic Club where it was. And he said initially, "No, I can't do that." He says, "My wife has volunteered. We're taking care of the nieces and nephews." And then he finally said, "She accepted that. I didn't accept that. I'll be there." So he came out to the U.S. Open, and we had a great week out there. That's a whole nother story. But we've been friends ever since. And I'm a member at Merido, and it's just a fantastic place to play, and a fantastic place to host the East-West matches, as well as they had the Southern Am last year, and he's had the Merido Invitational, and he's had numerous qualifying for USGA events, and staged the Corn Ferry Tour Caddy benefit tournaments that were. He's just done so many things for amateur golf, professional golf, and just golf in general. It's just so refreshing to know somebody like Albert, and to be friends with him. And he's a great guy, and created a great venue for the East-West matches, which I guess you're going to tell him that I'm the losing captain too.
Now, see, damn it, Paul! I wasn't going to say that. All I was going to say is that you were asked to be a captain. Now yes, your team lost by a point, but we're moving past that. But I guess what I wanted to ask about that is, this is, it was serious, but it was also a lot of fun. I mean, that was so clearly exhibited, where, I mean, the golf was great, but man, just, afterwards in the men's grill, just everyone's sitting. I mean, nobody's sitting by themselves. Everyone's in, tables are together, and people are talking. And it was just really fantastic. What was your approach to it? Because you didn't want to come in too serious or too light, but like, what did you learn about just the state of amateur golf by being around all these guys and just seeing just all that talent in the same room?
Well, it was just a wonderfully conceived, wonderfully staged event. I think that the fact that we had a pandemic added to some of the, I mean, not really mystique, but it added to the event because there was pent up demand, as I would call it. Everybody wanted to play. Nobody turned down an invitation. I think every single player on my team, they were so pleased to be invited, so excited to play. And it was just one of those things that it was needed, and it was at the right time. Merideau did just a fantastic job. Merideau is a very difficult golf course. The players, one of the headlines of an article that was written earlier in the year about Merideau, Albert said, "We bury heroes here."
Right.
And it's a very big risk reward golf course. And in many instances, the player will be tempted to take a risk that they probably shouldn't. And that's what I tried to tell my folks. They're going to be, it's all match play. So you make a 6 or a 7, it's not going to really ruin a round. You're just going to lose that hole. So maybe there was a little bit more risk taken in some instances, especially in the singles matches, which we got pounded in. And but what a great golf course, what a great event, and what great players played in it.
Yeah, I was amazed by all of the names and all the people that were participating, and I loved one of my fun. I mean, I had a couple really interesting memories with you, just seeing you at the table. I think you were sitting there talking to Scott Harvey and talking to Tyler Strafacci and John Pock, and I'm thinking, wow, you got a table with, you got the reigning U.S. Amateur champion, and you have the low am at the U.S. Open at Winged Foot. Then you got a Walker Cupper and a U.S. Mid-Am champ with Harvey, and then you're presiding over that whole table. And I'm just thinking, what a memory that's going to be for you. And then the other one that I just can't not mention is, this thing at Merideau. They have these little electric scooters available that mainly the young guys grab these scooters. You can throw a golf bag on them and you zip around and you play golf that way. It's really cool. And I think I saw Pac driving one in a practice round, and guys that were there that weren't playing these Swiss matches, you'd see them rolling around in those. And then you get your hands on one of these damn things and you're zipping around on one of them. And that leads me to ask this question. In all of your travels in the world, either playing mini tours or being in foreign countries, have you ever been in a dangerous situation in golf? More dangerous than that?
First of all, I resent the remark that I might be a little old to be riding on one of these.
I didn't say no. I didn't say that. I just said that. I just said a lot of young. I said a lot of young guys.
There was the implication.
Hey, I mean, you want to? I mean, you're right. All right, you got me. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'll tell you, they were fun. They were fun. Now, I didn't put my golf bag on that. The first day I was riding around with my clubs on there, and some of the guys, when I saw some of the shots going, were worried that they were going to be replaced. But that was never going to happen. But those things were, those little bikes were just great. They had wide tires on them. They were somewhat ungoverned as far as the speed, which got to be a little bit of a problem for me. But it was so much easier to get around the golf course rather than, being on a golf cart with a bike. You can go, all over the place. Whereas with a golf cart, there are some places that, first of all, you're not supposed to go, and
sure.
And secondly, that a golf cart wouldn't get through. So it was a lot easier for me to see more of the players and to get to know them, because many of those mid-ams I really didn't know that well, and I wanted to kind of bond with them so that we could, maybe have a more competitive team and whatever. So it was it was it was highly functional to have that thing.
Oh yeah.
But at Merido they have caddies, they have those bikes, they have golf carts, and they have those like I want to call it a surfboard almost, where you put the bag on there too.
The skateboard thing or whatever that is.
Yes, yeah, and I didn't try that. I figured just getting around on the bike, I was trying my luck, and but the golf bikes are very, very competitive there, and especially when the course is not crowded. Folks tell me they can get around in like 2 hours and 30 minutes and play a full round of golf as a foursome.
Wow.
So because those things will move, and if you have people that are, willing to get up there and hit it, you'll play in a hurry, and it was great. So, but you meet guys like John Pock and Tyler Strafacci who, are just starting their careers. I don't know whether they gained anything by meeting somebody like me or, Kevin Marsh or Jim Holgreave, which were the three captains there, and certainly Tim Jackson, all USGA champions. And then, many of the mid-ams were USGA champions as well. And I think for them, it may have been an awakening that here there are guys that are way beyond college age that are still enjoying the game at a very competitive level. And I think that was very refreshing for them to see that, there are folks that are 30, 40 years older than them that can still play and have a lot of fun doing it.
I know this is going to be a tough question, and we'll end. I mean, I feel that we can go on for hours and hours. We may need a second edition of this episode, but I'll go. I mean, because we haven't even scratched the surface, and I know you got so many stories. I see. The first thing I'm going to hear, Paul, is why didn't you get it? Why did you get him to tell that story, or why didn't you get him to tell this story? So I'm gonna get feedback on this, and I'm gonna be prepared for the next time. You mentioned meeting guys that you really didn't know, and getting to know the mid-ams that you're the captain for, and also the other team as well. But if you didn't have a round of golf, if they didn't have a round of golf to play the next day, and you probably could have had time for maybe just one more glass of wine, who were some of these mid-ams that you're like, man, a couple of these guys we can get in some good old trouble with?
Just looking down the list,
and I just mean storytelling. That's kind of what I mean, just storytelling.
Well, looking down the list, Joe Duraney probably was probably the biggest character on our team.
Okay,
and what a great guy, and what a great game! My goodness, I was astounded with. Everybody hits it long now.
Right.
Everybody does. And, you look down between Harvey and Duraney and O'Connell and Philip Lee and Michael Muir and Brent Bonner and, Warnquist and Todd Mitchell. I mean, Nathan Smith's on there, and he's maybe not a long ball hitter, but he's certainly not a short ball hitter. But those other guys are bombers. And, and then I had Geronimo on there too.
Yep.
And when you look at those guys, I probably would want to play with Joe, just because he's such a character, and we would be cutting up like crazy. And then I play with Harvey a lot, but he is always a lot of fun to play with, especially if you got a little match going.
Sure.
I mean, any of those guys I'd love to play with. I was really impressed with, as far as the seniors, Jeff Knox's game and the way he, being a member at Augusta and the way he was able to attack Merido. I thought that he did one of the best jobs in evaluating, the challenges of the course Merido, and being able to overcome those challenges. Likewise, Walter Todd was probably my MVP, because he won all his points, and so that but but I wouldn't say I would play with any one player ahead of any other player because I've had great times with all of them.
I saw
I
Walter
may have
Todd
diffused you. I may have diffused your question a little bit, but I mean, I'd like to play golf with any of these guys, and I think they would have a good time playing with me.
Oh yeah, no, I saw you mentioned all the heavy hitters. I mean, first of all, anyone that was playing in that and anyone in the room really deserved to be there, and they're incredible players. But yeah, Walter Todd, I saw him drop a handful of bombs out there, and oh my God, what a great dude! That guy needs to be on this podcast.
And he enjoyed that as much as anybody because he just loved it. He told me, he said, I'm not sure I really deserve to be here. And I said, Walter, you would not have been invited if you didn't deserve to be here. And I am glad that you seized the opportunity because he was grinding out there. He was just grinding.
Oh yeah.
And he did great. He did great. And it's just, tournament golf and competitive golf is, it's fun. And we had a great time, down there. I still am searching for one more point.
You're not going to let
even though it's been 3 months, I'm still searching for a point.
I'm not. This is a perfect opportunity to make a joke about a recount, but we're not going to go there. We're just not going to do it.
No, we're not going to go there.
We're not going to go there. Yeah. Well, by the way, for those people listening, Walter Todd, all he's really done, I mean, he's won a bunch of South Carolina Mid-Am titles, and he won a 4-ball, and he won the Jones Cup Senior. So, Walter, you're good. You're okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Top 10, top 5 in the Sunny Hannah Senior this last year. He's won the Senior Azalea. He's got a record. He's doing just fine. Well, Paul, I think we could probably go on for a few more hours, but we're going to cut this episode now, and I'd like to at least lobby for the opportunity to get you again at some point. But it was a thrill meeting you at Merido, and I'm really glad we were able to get some time to talk about your incredible amateur career. I know it's not done. I know you got a new set of clubs so that you're getting ready for 2021. So I appreciate the time, and thanks for coming by the back of the range.
Well, thank you, Ben. I've enjoyed myself, and I'd love to do it again. And we'll look forward to the podcast.
There you have it. There he is, the legend, Paul Simson. Yeah, I could fill up another episode or 2 or 3 with his stories, and don't be surprised if you see part 2 with Paul Simson coming very, very soon. But thank you to him for his time. Don't forget, follow along on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Some exciting news coming your way, and all of the previous episodes are available at thebackoftherange.com. If you like what you hear, go to Apple Podcasts, leave a review. That helps so much, and we'll see you again next time here at the Back of the Range.